All right, Matt, listen, we're filming this the week before UFC 251, so this is going to be like a regular addition to you in the future. But to us right now, this fight was added to UFC 251 tonight, which was originally scheduled to have Marcin Tybura and Alexander Romanov in his UFC debut. Now we get the former PFL alum Maxim Grishin stepping in on short notice. You might know him from Team Akhmat. He has a lot of really well-renowned teammates. He actually made quite a dent in the PFL. He had 2 draws in 2 different seasons, which is kind of crazy. He was the first guy to take the O from former standout wrestler and UFC vet Jordan Johnson. And then again, at the end of the year, a draw against Johnson in a 2-rounder because the PFL is a weird spot to be.
Very.
This is an odd fight too because Maxim Grishin, typically a light heavyweight, coming in here on short notice at heavyweight against the longtime UFC vet and former M1 Global heavyweight champ Marcin Tybura. It's an interesting one because you would think just, looking at it ostensibly, Maxim Grishin, if he's going to get the win, got to do it on the feet. Marcin Tybura got to grind it out. And this is another one of those ones where we've seen guys make the move from 205 to 265 almost in haste. We saw it from Ovin St. Preux. We've seen it from others, and we'll continue to see it with Gustafsson and Verdum. Also, Dadbod Vellante getting ready for the Jay Shore. In this fight, it's going to be interesting to see what we actually get because in terms of height and reach, both guys fairly similar. I just think this fight stylistically favors Marcin Tybura on short notice.
I never thought I'd hear you say that ever, that a fight stylistically would favor Marcin Tybura. But it is true. When you look at what he does, kind of the king of the grind, if you will. Not really going to see a lot of finishes from him. He does have decent striking. He's got a good ground game. Like, he's just very kind of average everywhere. The Augusto Sakai fight was a really bad loss, but now we kind of know how good Sakai is. He's great at grabbing fences, but he's good at striking too. And against Tybura, he just caught him early and put him down. But we have seen a very good durability from Tybura. He ate a really good front kick, I remember, even though he beat Stefan Struve, and Struve, it's not like he's the greatest litmus test, but still, he had good strikes from him. Verdum just beat the brakes off him for 5 rounds, but still, there was never a moment in that fight where you really felt like Tybura was out of the fight. For instance, when Anthony Smith was fighting Glover Teixeira, every round that fight went on, you're like, okay, like, he's not really in the fight anymore. But even though Tybura was losing every round, you never really felt like, okay, like, this is getting too bad. He still did quite well. And against Verdum, who at the time was still, widely regarded as one of the best heavyweights in the world, I think Tybura is just really good at kind of stopping his opponent's game plans because he just is so all-rounded. If you're a really good striker, he can take you down. If you're a really good wrestler, he has good enough wrestling to keep the fight standing. So he's just really going to do the opposite of whatever his opponent wants to. And I think that's really going to play into his ability here against Grishin.
That's the thing, too. And I mean, if you look at Marcin Tybura's last fight against Sergey Spivak, you can take that with a grain of salt because Spivak, I mean, yeah, he had a big win not that long ago against Tai Tuivasa, and then the fight after that, it just was old-timey Sergey Spivak. But for Marcin Tybura, you're right. He typically slows down the game plan of his opponent. For Maxim Grishin, you would assume that, again, he's going to have to control distance, throw that nice leg kick that he has, keep it wide, and then crack Marcin Tybura with something.
Yeah.
It's just tough to really crack Marcin Tybura. And again, I know in his last 5 fights, he's 2-3. The Derek Lewis fight, that was 2 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago. And if you go back and watch that fight, Tybura was winning it until he didn't, until he got knocked out.
Derek Lewis could knock out a horse too, so you can't really hold that against Tybura.
Exactly. So again, we're over a week out from this fight. We don't have odds in it because the fight just became official as of tonight. But again, I would expect the odds most likely going to favor Tybura in this one. I know it's kind of odd because, again, fight was just announced and we have about 75 picks on Tapology. Everybody so far going with Grishin to get the win. I just don't see it that way.
Especially with recent track record, light heavyweights haven't been doing all that well up a weight class against heavyweights. I just think that there's a change just because light heavyweights, you would assume moving up would have one of the easier transitions of any weight class. At least that comes to mind with me because when you look at the skill level of a lot of light heavyweights, it's just quite a bit better than the heavyweight division. I know Jimmy Crew put out a thing on Instagram that a lot of people got mad about him texting his coach where he was like, we can just move up to heavyweight and beat a lot of these guys, which is so disrespectful and not completely wrong. But Tybura is one of those guys who it's a good measuring stick for anyone coming into the UFC or anyone moving up into a weight class. He's not going to give you the most entertaining fights, but they're not going to be complete stinkers. He's kind of got that, kind of middle of the road style, if you will. And I think this should be an entertaining fight for as long as it lasts. I think Tybura is going to kind of be able to grind his way to a decision, but I wouldn't be surprised no matter how this fight goes.
And again, with Maxim Grishin, you expect with a win, probably back to 205, you get your opportunity in the UFC. But again, you got a guy that's 36 years old with 39 pro fights. You're not a prospect at this stage. So what's kind of the end game? You need a win in this fight. Because if you lose to Marcin Tybura, you're not going to be in good standing at 205. You're definitely not going to be in good standing at 265. And it could very well be goodnight Irene. So it'll be interesting to see what we get in this one. Both of us going with Tybur. Marcin Tybura, maybe a surprise pick so far. But you're not going to want to miss the rest of our predictions for the card. An extended look at the 3 title fights at the top of this one. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. As we always say, let's get into it.